Hello everyone. So yeah, I'm very happy to do this meetup because when I was coming to France, Erika told me, well, it would be great next time you're here that you do a dinner or lunch with the founders to talk about a specific topic. She was like, do you have a topic in mind? And so I was like, well, I know I can just do like a fundraising or something like this, but then I was like, no, I think there's a topic that is not well talked about, and I have a good experience in it. It's like what do you do when you're about to die with your startup? And so because this happened to me, so this talk is not only what to do when you're about to die. It's like what to do when your startup is just not crushing it. Like do you continue? Do you sell? How do you take the decision? And then when you decide to sell, how do you do? Because so I have no experience in selling a widely successful startup, so it must be another type of advices here. I will really focus on selling a startup that is is good, but it's not crazy. So before anything else, I will start with Allmyapps. Just to tell you, I will not do the full story of Allmyapps, but I will focus on the end. And after that, I will just recap a little bit, like the main points of the learnings I've had. But then every startup is different. So I have advised a few startups here at the family who are in a struggling position, and every one of them has different profiles. So it's impossible to give generic solutions. Like it really depends on your company. So this is why I will do this presentation, and then I will let you, if you have questions, I will let you ask all the questions you want, and if I can answer, I will. So Allmyapps was created in 2009. The idea was really to create the first app store for PC. And so it started very well. We raised 2.3 million euros. The long story short, Allmyapps is the story of a startup that burned too much money too fast. We did not have product market fit, and we anticipated the product market fit a bit too early. So very soon we found ourselves in a struggling cash position. And so we had the opportunity to re-raise money. We had to do some layoffs, and it basically took us a very long time to find our business model. And when we finally found our business model, we had no more marketing budget, so we are really on the shoestring budget-wise. So this is why, in terms of marketing, we went all in doing SEO, because this was the only way to have a growth without spending money. And it started really doing well. We are growing 20% a month, and so all the ambition that we had put on the side for a moment was coming back. And this is when this ambition came back, that immediately we did not have time to reconstitute a large war chest of money. This happened. So you wake up, I think it was the 4th September of 2013, and you wake up, on top I had my knee, I had a knee surgery, so I was stuck in the bed. And you do F5, on Google Analytics, and you're like, well, there's a bug on Google, because like the traffic doesn't show up, so they probably have a bug. And then the next day, you wake up and you realize that no, it's just that you lost 70% of your traffic. Your traffic is all your distribution channel, so that means that the revenues also drop 70%. And so then we were like, okay, what do we do? Because basically we had 4 months cash in the bank. If we had taken, so then the options were like, what do we do? Can we raise more money? Probably not. When you're in a situation like this, raising more money is not possible. We already had raised money 3 times, so it was not an option. What do we do? Do we lay off everybody and get back to, because we were still making money, so we could have come back to a profitable situation. We were like, okay, it was 2013. We had been working like crazy on this for, it was like 4 or 5 years. With all the ups and downs, we did not see ourselves, me and my co-founder, we did not see ourselves scaling back. We had like 12 employees at the time. Scaling back to being like 2, 3, or 4 was just no way. Then we went to discuss with our VC. And in the end, we took the decision to say, well, even if we lay off people, we're in France, so from the time you decide to lay off people to the time they exit your payroll, it's like 4 months. So even if we decided to lay off, we would have everybody out when there's no more cash. So we said, you know what, fuck it, we go all in. That means that we say, okay, Google fucked us, but we'll find a way out of this situation. We're going to put the company back profitable. So we're going to hard twice as hard to get back on track. And so we start. So yeah, and the idea here is really clear. It's like we don't want to survive. Like it has no point. Like Allmyapps was very ambitious. So the perspective of being a company that just survives was not a perspective. Like it's either we make it or we crash it, and that was very clear in our minds. So main issue was distribution. So I started working on finding a new distribution channel. I landed. So it was in January. I landed a new distribution channel, which brings us a lot of traffic again. So it was bad traffic, but it was still traffic. And so we started growing the revenue because we were at 80,000 euro per month. We went down to 15,000 per month, and then we started growing like 20, 25, 30,000 per month. But our cash burn was 60,000 euro per month. So we are still not break even. And here the game was really I was trying to recreate a growth engine. You know, once you have your lifetime value of your user, and you can finally start investing in marketing again. And we were close to do it, but we lacked time, and the money was just lacking. We were back in the danger zone. So then it was in April 2014. I go to the board and I tell them, you know what? I think that even we still don't have our growth engine back. If I look at the cash left, even if I don't sleep and I do only sell and I do my best, I don't think we can make it. Like we don't have enough money and we don't have the runway sufficient to recreate this growth engine. So what I propose that I stop doing sales and I just focus 100% on my time on selling the company. Because yeah, like you cannot do like selling on the, we'll try to sell. No, it's like 100% of your time. So that means that really by taking this decision, I was saying like if I don't succeed in selling, the company is going to crash for sure. So the board agreed. And then we start selling Allmyapps. So Allmyapps at that time, so it was not 12, like 12 was the interns, so 9 employees. We had a $500,000 debt because that was OZEO, now BPI. 3 million euro loss carry forward, so that's the deficit reportable, so that's all the loss you've accumulated across the years. And we'll see that it's very important, this is an important figure. We had 100,000 in the bank, and we had 150,000 say year yet to come. Like so, every year it was a struggle, and we were losing 30,000 per month. So then what happens was very funny because the first thing that happened is when we decided to sell, the week after, I received a phone call, and he was a potential buyer, and I had not done anything. So we received a phone call, and the person said, well, so you don't know me, but I actually read your management report, you know, because every year you have to submit to Infograph to file everything and put a management report. And I'm a pretty transparent guy, so I don't put everything in the report, but by reading it, you can see if the situation is good or if the situation is rather bad. And the guy said, well, we've been following you since 2011. We invested 3 million euros to recreate what you did. We did not succeed. So now I read your report, and I think maybe you want to talk. And I'm like, yeah, let's talk. So that was the first thing. I was completely inespéré. And so this was a French company. They were doing so Allmyapps was an app store for PCs, so we're digital distribution of software. And they were physical distribution of software. So they had this warehouse with a lot of box software, and they were trying to move to an online distribution play. They were not doing it. So long story short, the person was very interested in our team, the fact that we knew how to distribute and sell software online, our technology, and our users. So after some talks, we agreed to an offer, and he said, okay, I don't care about your debt. I'm gonna buy everything, the shares. I want the team, so I'm gonna offer you 350,000 euro for the whole company. And the idea is to keep all the employees. Then the problem, what happened is the guy was pretty old, and he was pretty old-fashioned, meaning for him, the employees were like, they have no say in the process. And so he said, like, I discuss with you, I buy your company, and then the employees just follow. Clearly, he did not know what a software developer is, because in Allmyapps, we were very transparent, like it was a real cohesive team. And so all my employees were appalled that the guy would not even dare come and talk to them, to even ask, like, present the company and tell them what are we going to do and things like this. And that they were treated like, you know, in the medieval age, like a serf who comes with the land. And so we are telling the guy, like, before doing any deal, come with your team and talk to the team, okay? Talk, explain, and I was like, no, I've done several acquisitions in my life. That's not how it works. I know how it works. Okay, fine. But then I was seeing, like, the revolt growing in the team, and so to the point that at the end I said, you know what, like, you need to incentivize the team. Otherwise, they will not agree to come, because they were telling me, you know, Thibaut, we like you very much, but the thing is, what is for us the choice? The choice is either we go with you, like we say, okay, like, yes, I'm glad to join your company, and then if it doesn't please me, I need to resign, I have no social benefit, nothing. Or on the other hand, Allmyapps crashes. If Allmyapps crashes, I'm free, and I have 100% of my salary during 1 year. So, you know, we love you, but it's not very cool. So, and at this time, also, it's very clear, there's a clear disalignment of interest. Because they did not care that if Allmyapps crashed, for me, I was having zero, like 0.0. And no social benefit, nothing. So, and this was like, okay, we're sorry for you, but you took your risk. And because I was trying, come on, guys, you know what happens also for me if the company crashes, right? I'm like, yeah, we're sorry for you, but that's it. And so in the end, what happened? So the guy finally decided to come and talk to the team, interview every single one of them, and they all tell him, you know what, we're not interested in joining you, we don't like your company. So, and at the end, I was telling him, like, you take on the 350,000, you remove 50,000 from the acquisition price, and you give every single person in the company, we're just 9, you give them like 5,000 golden elo. If you come and you agree to stay for at least 9 months, you take 5,000 euro. And so you refuse to do that. In the end, you say, well, I'm going to give them objectives, and if they reach their objectives in 6 months, they will have like 10% or something completely crazy. And so it did not convince the developers, and everybody, like the developers, said, we're not interested. So he come back to us and say, well, if your team doesn't want to come, so I guess we cannot do much. So obviously I was pretty pissed. This failed. Then I had a competitor. So a company, French also, in my space, we know each other well. So they were older than us, so they were making, they were already successful, and they were making benefits. And so I called them and I say, well, here's what happened, and I'm very transparent. Here's what happened to us, Google, blah, blah, blah. So we know each other. We know that it would be a good thing to integrate because they like our product. And I tell him, you know what? Let's make a deal. I sell you the company, $500,000 in cash. And I showed him, because we do the exact same business. So all my loss, the 3 million euro that you were seeing before, so he could integrate with his benefits, okay? So by integrating that, he would save taxes. So that means on the 3 million of losses that I had, he could save 1 million of taxes. So that's an asset. So you turn the debt into an asset. And with the calculus, I showed him, okay, if you buy me €500,000 euro cash, even if the deal completely falls through, and in the end you have to lay off all my employees and everything, which is, it was the same business, so it would not be the case, and that was really the worst case scenario. Even in the worst case scenario, you still benefit. You don't like you gain, I remember it was like 100 or 150,000 euro out of this deal. So he's like, yeah, let's do this. Yeah, that's great. Thank you for calling me. Let's do this. So immediately we put the lawyers in the loop, and perfect. Finally, I have a way out, and so we discuss, and the discussion takes time, and he answers. Every time he answers even a little bit slower, and even my lawyers are like, well, we don't understand. We were here at the first meeting, like he was very pushy, and now like why does he answer and all. So, and at one point, because clearly the clock was ticking, I take my phone, I'm like, hey, what's happening? Like clearly there's something. So what's happening? Well, you know. So I was thinking, because buying you with cash, do you think I could buy you with BSPCE, so the stock options? and I tell him, well, the thing is, by proposing this, is like if you would ask me if you could buy me with Ticket Restaurant, it would be the same. So my answer is clearly no. That's not the deal we agreed on. And clearly, he was playing the clock to instead of doing a win-win deal, he would rather wait that we die and buy us at Bar de Tribunal de Commerce, right? So the thing is, in the meantime, so this fell through also. Like I said, no, sorry. Yeah, so win-win deal, sell all the shares, risk-free acquisition, perfect deal. But no, strong finance, slow moving. So no, and then I say, okay, now what? So I had Allmyapps had several partners, all international, so mostly Israeli and American. And so I make the round of all my partners, and I say, okay, here's what happened to me. Are you interested in buying Allmyapps? And so I was doing this at the same time that I was discussing with the previous offer. And so it was at the time, it was the year where, it was 1 year after Arnaud Montebourg had made the deal of Dailymotion went through. You remember this deal, like Yahoo wanted to buy Dailymotion, and the deal was blocked by Montebourg. And so all my partners say, well, you know what, we like what you do, and we'd be interested in buying, but we're not interested in having operations or any business in France. So if we buy you, we want to buy the assets, but we don't want to buy the shares. So who knows the difference between the assets and the shares? Who doesn't know? Who doesn't know the difference? Do you want me to explain? Okay. So in the company, so when you buy the shares, you buy both the liabilities of the company and the assets. Donc les actifs and le passif. So this is if you buy the shares. If you don't want to have any operation in the country, and you said no, but I'm not interested in your passive, in your liabilities. I just want to buy your assets. So obviously, this is another type of deal, and I say, okay, so I understand your point. So how much? Because then it's a question of price. If you buy my assets for 10 million, I'm very happy. So then I make the round, and people were offering things. Like they were starting at 400,000, and then so I was trying to make them go up to 1.2 million, because 1.2 million, it would mean that we could pay off our debt, because once I sell, the thing as a CEO, if you sell your assets, you're legally responsible to cover your debt. So you need to sell your assets enough so that you can reimburse your debt. Otherwise, tribunal, it's interdiction de gestion et tout le tintouin. So I was really trying to push the amount, and in the end, so when the other person told me I can buy you with BSPCE, les enchères, the auction was at $600,000, and $600,000 is a good amount, but it's not enough. I have $500,000 debt from Oseo, so immediately I call Oseo and I put all the lawyers also to try to pressure Oseo to forgive its debt, because it was mostly it, and they don't want to hear anything. It's like, no, you told us the project was a success, so the project is a success and you have to reimburse the $500,000. Okay, I'm like, yeah, but obviously it's not a success, otherwise I would not be in this situation. Inflexible, they don't want to hear anything, so beware when you take some BPI debt. And so the problem is, so $600,000, you remove the debt, basically it was not enough to cover all the debt. So then what I said so it was Iron Source, so here, it's a spoiler, they will win they will buy the company, but because the other one I anonymized because they were not happy that I put their logo. So 600,000, and I tell them, yes, but 600,000, be aware that I cannot take the decision alone. Because if I take it alone, I put myself in a legal risk. So if you don't bid more, I will have to go through the French legal system, because it's the judge who will have to approve the sale and not me, because I want to cover my ass. And fine, no problem. So then what happens? So on the phone we say, okay, 600,000. He said, okay, come over to Israel and we'll discuss. So I fly to Israel. So it was very funny, because it was at the time that I was in the US, and there were, so it's not funny, there were bombs on Tel Aviv falling. So all planes were cancelled to Tel Aviv, and I had to take the only plane that was flying, which was the Al company, so the Israeli company. And I made the plane late 2 hours because I was the only non-Jew to board the plane. And they were not understanding why, as a non-Jew, I wanted to go to Israel at this moment where there were bombs on Tel Aviv. And so I think my PC is, like, they know everything about my life now. And so in the end, I arrive. I spend 1 day, so they question me. I meet all the team, and at the end, like the CEO, I have the final meeting with the CEO, and he said, well, it's very good what you built. We were very happy, and obviously, so it's a price that is advantageous for us. But I told you 600,000. It's going to be 600,000. I maintain my offer, and the only thing is that I want your engineers also in that price. I want to pay your engineers to integrate your technological platform into my technological platform. So I will send you 2 engineers to audit the whole code, and then I'll tell you which engineers in your team I need. And I say, okay. So obviously at that point, my developers were also pretty low, right? So they are like, okay, he's still trying to sell. Come on, like, free us, like, let the company crash so that we can get our social benefit. That was really the mood. So like, you really feel alone at that time. And so they send their 2 engineers. They audit. So they stay 1 week. They audit all the code. And at the end, they come back to Israel, and so Tamir, the CEO, tells me, well, here are the engineers that we need. And in the engineers, they were not my co-founder. So Arno, I created Allmyapps with Arno, and my co-founder was not in the deal. What does it mean? It means that if we agree to sell, so the shareholders get nothing, because obviously there's not enough money to pay back the shareholders. Arno was a shareholder, so he would get nothing. And the only way to get some money out of the deal was to be in this contract service to integrate the platform from our platform to their platform. So that would mean that my co-founder would not get a cent from the deal. And this I was really not happy with, because, like, you know, when you have a co-founder, it's like a wedding, so for better or for worse. And so I called back Tamir and said, well, there's a problem in what you proposed, is that Arno is not, you need Arno, it's his product, he knows everything about the product, you need him. And he said, no, like, my engineers told me, we don't need Arno, we are fine with only the engineers. So I said, no, but like, you don't understand, you need Arno. Arno needs to be in the deal, because trust me, you need him. He says, Thibaut, I don't need Arno, okay? So then what I said, but you know what? If Arno is not in the deal, there's no deal, because Arno is my co-founder. There's no way Arno gets out of this with nothing. Just that's the way. And so he was very pissed about this. But so then he said, okay. So what I'll do is I'll give you money to you, and then you dispatch to whoever you want. And so if you're happy with that, I'm happy with that. I said, no problem, I'm happy with that. So the deal was this, like, so buying the assets for 270,000, 200,000 for the key employees, and 30K for the guy who just put us in contact with the right person in the company. So it was like 1 phone call, 30,000, perfect. So okay, I cannot take the decision alone. I need approval of administration judiciaire. So what we did is then we signed a contract, the sale contract. So everything was already signed. There were 2 contracts: the contract for selling the asset, the contract for selling the service contract. And then I go to the judge, and I see. So before I go to the judge, I ask good lawyers who know a lot about the administration judiciaire, because administration judiciaire in France, so I don't know in English, like the legal administration, like when you go chapter 11, can be pretty bad for founders and for startups, because there's a lot of, I would not say corruption, it's not corruption, but let's say they don't care much. There are some people that are more professional than others, so you want to be sure you go with somebody that is ethical. And so I hire those lawyers, and they tell me, well, you know what? So basically, here are all the administrateur judiciaire and all the liquidator in the Paris place. And basically, you want this one or this one. All the other ones, you sure don't want, because then it's going to be a lot of trouble. And so they say, we're going to go to the court on that day, because on that day, if you get judged by the judge, you will have the chance of having this liquidator or this liquidator, so then we have a good chance of having a good liquidator. So yeah, don't cheap out on the lawyers, even when you have no more money, because they will get paid, no matter what. They know the administrator, the liquidator, and all, they know their way, so they will get paid even if you don't have money. And so we do that, and luckily we have a very good liquidator. The guy, crazy professional, like he was answering my emails at 1 in the morning. It was really, I would say it was a good experience. I did not enjoy it, but compared to what it could have been, it was really, really cool. And then, so my lawyer also was telling me, well, I forgot something before, the relationship with my VC. Because, so my VC was, my partner was Marie Eklund, it was Elaya at the time. And it was exactly at the moment where she quit Elaya. So she quit Elaya on July 2014. And then I got another partner to become my partner. And when I announced the deal, so this very deal, so I was in the US, and I announced the deal, and they tell me, well, we don't agree with that deal. I'm like, how come you don't agree with that deal? Well, clearly, there is shareholder value that goes into your service contract. So that means that instead of maximizing shareholder value, you derive value to put in your service contract to make sure you get paid a good price. So I think I never screamed on the phone that loud as that day. The phone could have melted, because it was so unfair, and they were just like out of nowhere, well, we don't agree. So I was like, okay, we meet on Monday, and you explain to me exactly how shareholder value goes into my service contract. And so I arrive, and because the thing is, for me, I was getting paid if you made a daily rate. The daily rate for me was like 300 and 400 euros, something like this. Before Allmyapps, as a developer, I was charging 600 euros per day. So it was basically half my rate. So I said, like, explain to me. And obviously, well, they were like, no. When they tried to explain, I say, okay, here's the deal, and they were like, no, yeah, we're good. So I spent the worst weekend of my life just because I don't know what they were trying to do, but it was stupid. So that being said, it happens, and I was very happy of my VC. But like on this very moment, they were really not cool. So, but I guess also it's because Marie was not here anymore. He didn't know all the history. But that was Elaya. It was Elaya. So when Marie left, Elaya put another partner. I will not say because it would not be fair. It's just that it pissed me off because they were trying to negotiate. I don't know what, but in the end also one good explanation, and they did not, because they could have continued being stupid. Like we had a good explanation and everything went through. So that was good. No, like it was. What was he saying? He said, "Well, you do your stuff, but we don't want to hear about it, and we will not." Well, I don't remember what they were saying, but basically they were treating me like I was a crook, and I really hated it. So, especially because I could have stopped this whole game, like I was fighting, and I was fighting also for them. Okay, so because obviously nobody wants the company to fold. So. Okay, so September 9, asset purchase agreement. And then, so to the judge, like my lawyers told me, well, you know what? There's two contracts. There's the asset sale and there's your service contract. Maybe it's better if you don't talk about your service contract because, yeah, they might think it's sketchy and things like this. And I'm like, no. The same with my VC. I have nothing to hide. The thing is perfectly clear. So I want everybody to know exactly what's happening because everything that is happening is completely legit. So they disapproved it. I said, I don't care. So I went to the liquidator. I said, okay, there's two contracts. So if you agree, the asset sale, I bring immediately $370,000 to buy the assets, which covers basically all the debt I have. It's just BPI who doesn't get paid in full. And then I have a contract. So if this goes through, I have a contract, and this contract will help me pay this engineer to integrate them. So they really liked that I was super transparent like this, really, because I said, no, usually people try to go around, and also transparency, like, go ahead. If you do something that is right, and you know it's right, be full transparent. Like, there's always a good reason. And so he tells me, well, there's one thing that you made a mistake. He said, so that's great, everything's great, but in the asset sale, you put that the sale is pending the approval of the administration judiciaire. He said, had you not put this in the asset sale, I could have considered that there was an ongoing contract and just validate it like this, stamp, and that would go through. Here you say it's pending the approval, so I have to make a public sale and a public auction of your asset, and so that means that he made a public auction. And who came back? The first two companies came back to try to buy the asset, which I was really scared about it, because obviously I had an agreement with Iron Source, but if the other two companies were to buy the asset, I had no service contract, I would gain zero, and they would have all the leverage to decide what to do with me, basically. And so how it happens is that everybody sends offer. So company A, the first one, like the physical goods distributor, proposed 80,000. Company B, 250,000, and Iron Source. So that was at the time where euro was worth something, so almost 300,000. And so the liquidator told me, well, the most dangerous in this auction is actually Company A, because Company A, we know that guy, he knows exactly how the procedure works. And so here the game, when you enter this procedure, is just to put a foot in the door, you know? So you announce yourself as not dangerous, like only 80,000, so you don't have financial power, but you just get the right to assist at the table. And he said that, so many times, the Company A who does this just sends a signal, I'm weak, I will not win, to let the other two battle, and then he makes a counter offer to win. So he said, beware of Company A. Well, that doesn't say me beware. He said, from my experience, I think Company A could outbid the other two. And then, so how it happens, everybody goes in front of the judge and bid and say, okay, 80,000, and here's the project I have for this wonderful company and all these assets and things like this. And at the end, the judge takes every one of them separately and ask one simple question. He said, like, do you want to raise your bid? And you don't know, so they don't know if the other one are going to raise or not, and you don't know what they say. So it's really, and you have one possibility of raise. So if you say yes or you say no, but you have one possibility. And so the Company A, in the end, did not raise. They thought that was too much. It didn't raise. Company B raised to 320, and Iron Source raised to 361, and so Iron Source won the deal. And they bought Allmyapps for 361,000 euros. And after that, I fell on my couch and I slept for 3 months. And so, yeah, so this is why I like this quote from Churchill, like, if you're going through hell, don't stay in hell. Like, continue walking. So that was the story of Allmyapps in short. But yeah, that was a very shitty situation. Like, you really feel super alone in that situation. Okay, so why do you sell? So obviously here in Allmyapps, the decision was pretty straightforward. You could not raise. Like, we didn't want to go back to scale down because we had already made a layoff like 2 years before, and it was very painful. So the team was already exhausted. Like, the team stayed, but had we lay off another time, like the team would have collapsed, and so it would not have been good. Me and my co-founder, we did not want to go back to being two. So and also the market was moving away. So with Allmyapps, we are really just on the time to market, but a little bit late. So here it would not make sense. Like, we did not feel confident that there was something to be done. So this is why we decided to go all in and or sell the company. So it doesn't have to be that way. Like, you can have, for example, a business that is profitable, but it's a business that you thought would go crazy, and in the end you get stuck, the model didn't work, or so there's no rule to decide if you need to sell or not. But I like what Usama is saying on the subject. It's like a startup dies when the founder doesn't believe in it anymore, and so that's exactly the moment where you need to sell. If you still have, I guess, the will, the energy, and you see a way forward, I guess you should still try. Okay, so it's very difficult to say when are you being persistent and when are you being completely stupid because you should stop. It's impossible to say, and there are tons of examples and counter examples. I was with a friend this morning. He has a company that he created at the same time of Allmyapps. He was supposed to die 10 times already. And every time he would just hang on, and now it's starting to work. After 10 years, he made 10 years without revenue, and now it's starting to work. But he always kept the face that, there's a way forward, this is how we can do, and so there's no rule. It's really you as a founder who can decide whether you want to sell or not. Even if your co-founder goes crazy, like you can still find another co-founder. That's what happened to him, actually. He got betrayed by his co-founder at the worst moment, and still he was like, yeah, but I'm going to find another co-founder. Wow, okay. And he made it. So that's really a personal decision and a co-founder's decision. And so the first thing that you need to decide as co-founders is you really need to have a discussion when everybody agrees, okay, we need to sell. So then the question is, what do you want as a co-founder? What is your ideal situation? Do you want to stay in the company? Do you want just you're fed up and you don't want to hear about this company, this market anymore, and you just want to exit because your wife or your partner wants to go to Venezuela, and you're into Venezuela right now, and so it's really important because it conditions how you're going to sell the company. Because when you're not doing so well, one of the big assets of the company is the team. So are the founders going to stay or not is really important. And you should not, at this point, you should not say, yeah, I'm going to stay. If you really, in your head, you think that the only thing that you want and you dream at night, you cry at night because you want to quit. So it doesn't matter. It's better if the team stays, but you should not force it. Because, and also, when means also don't wait for the last minute, because when you sell, we used to say the company are not being, you don't sell a company, the company is being acquired. So when you sell, you have to, it's like when you raise funds, you have to build a narrative, you have to build a story. And so to build this story, you need some runway. You need to be able to actually create a story and a coherent one. So if you wait too long and you have to go through the administration judiciaire, well, administration judiciaire sends a terrible signal. It's like, okay, you have a story, but the story is that you don't have cash anymore, so your valuation immediately dropped completely. So this is why you need to anticipate a little bit. And then, so you have to, how do you sell? So there's one thing I hear a lot of founders say, well, Facebook would be a tremendous acquirer for us because of this and that, and they have this romantic view about selling, like why this crazy company that is doing super well should buy our asset because, okay, there was no market, we didn't make enough money and all, but combined with them, it would be so beautiful. And so that's complete romantic view. It will never, ever happen, because put yourself in the shoes of these big successful companies. Okay, so for them, the whole world wants to be acquired by them, and so the time they will spend to know whether you are a good fit or not, because you don't know anybody, so you need to create contact, you need to establish a trust, they need to see if you're doing well or not. The investment for them is just not worth it. So if you don't have contacts with the potential acquirer when you decide to sell, it's very, 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 very unlikely that you sell to this company. So this is why I used to say, you sell to companies that you're already making business with. So companies that are in your ecosystem that you know, and partners, customers, suppliers, because they already know you. So they know your company, they have an interest or not, it's going to be fast. But don't say, I'm going to sell to Google. It usually doesn't work. Another thing also, if you have time, sometimes, because obviously to sell, the best way is to have some competition, okay? So to have several potential acquirers. So this is why it makes time, and I was in discussion with some of them for Allmyapps to ask a banker or a company that specializes in this, because there are some companies that they know all the M&A guys of the big companies, and so they help you build that narrative, and they help getting people interest in your company to try to create a bid to increase the valuation. So in the end, I did not use their service, so I cannot tell much, but a lot of companies do that. So if you have the runway, if you're profitable, that's probably the way to go. Here, we were just bleeding red, so we did not have enough runway to do this. So to whom exactly? That's what I was just saying. Is like very, very likely you will sell to somebody you already know. You will not sell to somebody you don't know. For how much? So that's the big question. So obviously there's two ways like to approach this. The first way is to look at your accounts, okay? And you make, so at the end I will send you a link, because for one company in the family, so we anonymized everything, but I actually went through his accounts, and based on his accounts I tried to guess a valuation, and using like dirty tricks, but it's only dirty tricks can evaluate companies. And so the first thing is to go through your accounting. Like what I did for Allmyapps when I was trying to sell to my competitor. I said, okay, here's the assets, here's how I value my assets, here's the debt, in the loss carry forward, so the deficit reportable, I transform it into an asset, because for you, when we integrate, it's going to be a tax economy for you, etc. So, and this gives you a number. Okay, so this number is a good starting point. So if this number is negative, then you are clearly in trouble. If this number is positive, I mean it's probably the floor, okay, the minimum that you should sell. And then you want to try to sell as high as possible. Clearly, you cannot here, even if you want to you say I'm the best seller in the world, so my company is worth $500,000, but I'm going to try to sell 4 million. So unless you can raise interest of several buyers that really wants you and that really wants to acquire you, the chances of selling this price will not do it, because the only reason to evaluate a company 4 million if on the book it's worth $500,000 is that you really want to prevent your competitor to buy it. So there's really this competition bid. So it's hard to get. This is where the bankers are useful. If you don't have this competition, then obviously, if you convince the buyer at first that your company is worth 4 million, and then at one point he will go in the books and he will see. So at one point he goes in the books and he say, well, actually the growth is like this, and your account shows that your company is valued $500,000. It's going to be totally deceptive. It will break trust, and the deal will fall through. Okay, so you need to be pushy, but not too much, because you're not in the best situation. The only way where you can really increase valuation if there's competition to buy you. And then I guess for the price, what I say very often is like, it's a complete subjective decision. You have to go get a beer with your co-founder and say, okay, guys, what is the minimum amount you want to get out of this deal? And you agree that if this amount, you don't have this amount, then you're okay for the company to crash. And that's a good way to approach it. You say, what is the minimum? Like a worst case scenario, how much do you want to get out of this deal? And everybody says, okay, like I'd like to have this, and you work out together, like this minimum price that is completely subjective, but it's you, in the end you sell, so you know what you want to, like for example, if crashing the company and you're not a mandataire social gives you 100% of chômage for 1 year, probably that's your floor, and that's the minimum you want to, the minimum amount that you want to get from the sale. And then you come with a number, and then you can say, okay, based on this number, let's try to sell double. Okay, and it's just an example, but it's a good way, because in the end it's very subjective. And you know that if there's somebody in the team that says that is completely delusional and say I want 4 million, then you have to give him more beer and shots and make him go down his valuation, because he's going to ruin the deal. So that's that's a practical way to decide. And it's very easy because it's just your co-founders. So random tips. So yeah, don't be romantic. Like it's hard. Like it's really hard. And nobody is waiting for your company. Nobody wants to acquire your company. So you have to build a narrative, okay? And then decide also, depending on what you want to sell. For example, if the team stays, you can say, well, we're the greatest team, we'll help you do this, that, because this is our expertise. If the team doesn't want to stay, you'll say, well, look, we have all these super qualified emails, we have 3 million of them. If we value the email at €1 per email, then this is the valuation of the company. You can have technologies. You say, okay, this technology we took 3 years to develop. So obviously, if you develop it yourself, it's going to cost 2 million. If you acquire us, if you acquire us, it will cost you 1 million. So you have to develop this kind what is your assets? How do you want to pitch your company? And all this depends on the decision that you do. But don't be romantic. Don't try to reach out for Facebook. Don't try to reach out for the company you would love to sell. You can do it, but you give yourself 2 weeks. Say, okay, let's be crazy, and we give ourselves 2 weeks. We try to reach every super big buyer that would love to be part in and see if they have interest, because maybe it's exactly the right time. So you should still try it, but don't count on it, and give yourself a clear deadline on when this path is forgotten, because otherwise you will die trying. So take advice from pros, because exactly when you go, especially if you go into the administration judiciaire, if you get protection from the law and things like this, this is a complete unknown system for founders. You don't know how to navigate it. And it's not rational. There's a lot of tips you don't know. This thing about, let's go see the judge on that day instead of that day. Well, I'm thankful every day that this guy told me this. Otherwise, it could have been completely wrong. So it's important, even if you don't have money, try to get the best pros, and especially this type of lawyers. As I said, they know the liquidator, and also if your company is worth something and they have a decent chance of selling the assets, they will get money out of it. So it's okay. You have negotiation power. That's also something, when you're selling and the company is not going well, you see everything dark. Everything your company is shit, it doesn't worth anything, you're scamming people. It's not true. If you raise interest from a buyer, if a buyer says, yes, let's discuss, I would like to acquire you, then you gain negotiation power, because the guy in front of you wants to buy you. So this is why, for example, when I said, I had no negotiation power, but when I said to Tamir, well, if Arnaud is not in the deal, there's no deal, the guy wanted to buy me. He made me come to Israel. He spent a lot of time. His engineer came. Clearly, he was in love with the company. He was like, that's a great deal. I don't want to miss it. So you always have negotiation power. So as long as you raise interest from someone. And this you should never forget. So don't accept, this is your life. Also, don't accept anything that you don't agree with. Okay, if you think it's really unfair and that will make you completely sad for the next 2 years, don't accept it. Just say no. I'm not okay with that, and people will come and will negotiate. They will not make the deal fall through. And that probably the most important and the most difficult is because it is such a hard situation that many times you will want to say, you know what, okay, if I do it this way, I will screw this guy or I will screw that guy, but hey, you know what, that's life, that's how it's done, it's business, it's not personal, all this kind of bullshit. No, this is bullshit, okay? You have one asset in your life, is your reputation. This is the only single asset. You decided to create this company, it was for better or for worse, now it's the worst, and you have to give every single energy you have to try to minimize the damage. When things go south, you want to try to minimize the damage to everyone, and you want really to kill yourself to make sure there's the best outcome possible. And so this is why Allmyapps, it's not a satisfaction, but the judge, if there was a grade, he said he was very happy because he says that's very rare that in the end there's no, we reimburse basically everyone. Just BPI just didn't get his money, so he said it's very good. So. Very good, yeah. Not for me, but it's very good. But that's really important. For example, Marie, who was my investor, then she invested in my next company. So that's such a strong signal. Imagine like you have an investor, the investor loses everything, and yet when you start another company, the investor still trusts you to invest. So that's a crazy signal for all the other investors, like, wow, okay, so the guy clearly is trustworthy. So the worst decision you could do is to sacrifice your reputation because you want to take a shortcut. You're like, well, yeah, maybe I'll get more money if I squeeze this guy and squeeze this guy. That's not the right way to think. That is short-term thinking, and then you will swim with the sharks, and that's not the life you want. So you want to be perceived as somebody that is trustworthy. That's extremely important. So, but it's hard because most of the time to do that, you have to you're negotiating against yourself because it's like, I could take this decision. I know if I take this decision, I get more money, but I screw this guy and this guy. And this is the moment where you should say, well, you know what? I will not screw those guys, and that's my fault, that's my responsibility, so I need to accept it. That's it. So if you want, there's 2 links for the valuation use case I was telling you about, and the full Allmyapps story also is online. So I talked largely enough, so if you have any kind of questions, please shoot me. How did I know what to do next? So I was in a very special situation because basically when Allmyapps went to be very profitable, all my customers were in the US. So I told my wife, you know what, let's move to the US. We lost enough time. So try to find a position in the US, and we moved there. And basically she found a crazy position, and the week after she signed, Google killed us. So then I told her, okay, like go, I manage with Allmyapps, and then I'll join you. And so I arrived in the US as a desperate house husband with no visa, nothing. So then what I did what I love most is coding. So coding relaxes me. And so I first rest, then I started coding, volunteering in my wife's lab to help them do a project. But obviously, like, I knew I could not be an employee, or worst scenario for me was to become a freelancer. Like I was a freelancer before, and I could become one. It's good life. But then the thing is, Allmyapps was something that drove me since the engineering school, because it was like, how do I make people know how to use computers, like install applications and things. And after Allmyapps, like, the truth is there was some dude called Steve Jobs that solved the problem. Like, people knew how to install apps and to use their PC. So what drove me up to that point didn't exist anymore. So I had to find another thing that would motivate me for the next 10, 20 years. And then it was politics. So I I created laprimaire.org after that. So I teamed up with the lawyer of Allmyapps. And we were like, okay, like because if you remember early 2015, like the candidates, everybody was saying it's going to be Le Pen or Sarkozy or Hollande or Vision. And so we were like, what if we try to create a primary that is completely open, and we use the internet to try to crowdsource the best candidate from all over France. And so we did that for 2 years. So the little I earned from Allmyapps, I spent it all in La Prière, because it was a non-profit, there was no business. And this is what got me back into crypto, because I was with Allmyapps, I had an encounter with crypto before, but this like put me back to it, and then I stayed because to me, like there's a lot of things that go wrong in this world, and I think the new paradigm shift that is decentralization in crypto is one thing I'm very enthusiastic about, that it can solve a lot of problems. So I really wanted to stay in that field. And so when La Primaire stopped, this is when like I sent an email to all the people who helped me in La Primaire, and one of them was Usama, and Usama was like, wait, you want to make money now? Right, let's discuss. Like, we need to go into crypto, and I think we should do something together. And this is how Decusis started.
First, thanks for the talk, because it was very good, excellent. Going back to the story, like company B, like the second one that comes, you say, okay, there's 1 million tax shield. They are at first ready to put like 500K, but it's a lot of money that you're asking for them to cash out. Are there ways that you could do like several installments in the time. Is it something you explored with them, or?
So no, because we didn't have time, and it broke trust. Because I'm always okay to negotiate, but I negotiate if you show me that you're trustworthy. If like you delay and delay, don't answer, and just to trick me, to make sure that I have no more leverage to negotiate, then I don't want to negotiate with you anything because you're not trustworthy. So, but what happens most of the time with companies, the easiest way to sell, I'd say, is to minimize the risk of the acquirer. And so what they will usually propose is something like, okay, we buy you cash, a small amount, but enough to, okay, you're happy to sell. But then they make what we call an earn-out. So they say, okay, you tell me your company is great because if we integrate together, our business will go from 10 million to 20 million in 5 years. The guy will say, perfect. So what I'll do is, you want me to buy you for 5 million? What about I buy you for 1 million cash right now, and the 4 million you earn along the way if you reach the objective and what you told me. So this is how most companies get sold, because for the founders, 1 million is not a lot, but it recoups. It's something you sell, so it's good, and then you still have this possibility. If you don't completely oversell your company, you have a possibility to earn along the way. So this is good because then the company that acquires, they basically take no risk. They acquire for a small amount. Worst case scenario, they lose this small amount, but it's very unlikely. And best case scenario, you really do your objectives. They gain a lot of money, and then they're very happy to give you more money. So that's the way to reduce the friction.
Can you develop how you got in touch with the 3 companies? And did you call them, or did you use an agent, or?
So no, I did not use an agent because, yeah, as at the beginning, remember we had said we make it or we crash it. So when really I saw that the end was near, and Allmyapps should have crashed. Okay, like all odds were against us. So I really had no time to hire a banker and try to build a narrative and things like this. So my only option was to call, be super transparent, like immediately, and see what happens. So the first one, really, it was an in-call. They just read our rapport de gestion, okay? And they were like, huh, interesting, and they called us. The second one is a competitor, so we knew each other. And the other one, Iron Source, was a partner. They were a distribution partner of ours.
Did you contact other people and you have no answers?
Yeah, so I contacted everybody I knew, especially all my partners. Like, when you want to sell, as I said, like you need to shoot to everybody who knows you and knows your company. And so, yeah, I contacted every one of them to know. And there were American companies also that wanted to buy the assets, but they were outbid by Iron Source.
What do you mean by Google killed us?
So Google killed us. So basically, so it's a bit technical. We don't have the complete. I cannot say this is for sure the answer, but basically what happens is so Allmyapps. You need to understand how it worked. So all our SEO is like you wanted to download Firefox or download XYZ. And then, so we are working like a download site. You know, when you do, the download sites, how they work. But then the difference with us is when you would arrive on the Firefox page, you would click on download, and then we would propose you, like, do you want to download only Firefox, or do you want to also to install our App Store? And then they would install the App Store to have also all the updates of their other application, install this one. And so basically what happens is that you make the visitor go aware of your website immediately. So, and then the Google algorithm works a little bit like this. So when you have low traffic, Google sees that it just checks that you don't do super nasty stuff, like you install viruses or like there's malicious software in your website. If you don't do that, it doesn't care much, like it brings you little traffic. So we are growing like 25% a month. So if I remember well, in August, we are like above 2 million monthly unique visitors. So then once you start going higher, then the Google algorithm is like, well, you know what? We bring this guy 2 million people for free every month. Let's dig a little bit and let's crunch a little bit more what they do. And then they look and they see, okay, do the people stay on the website? And in Allmyapps, they don't stay on the website. They go on Firefox, they click, and then they go to the App Store experience on the PC. So they don't stay on the website. Okay, they don't stay. Maybe they come back. But no, they don't come back. Like now they have the App Store on their PC, so they use the App Store on their PC. They have no way, and we did not engineer anything for them to go back on the website. So then they're like, whoa, that looks scammy. And then they check at your brand, like, okay, allmyapps.com. Allmyapps.com is pretty new. All our competitors, the download sites, were created between 98 and 2003. So we were created in 2009. So they're like, well, those guys are spamming my index, and bye-bye. And this is not a manual procedure because we knew everybody at Google, and they were telling us we're very sorry because if it had been a manual decision, we could reverse it. But here it's not manual. Nobody at Google wanted to kill you. It's just sorry. So that's what happened. They did not. It's not them who explained to us like I just did, but it's the best explanation we got from external consultant SEO experts.
Yes, thank you a lot for the infos, the qualified infos you brought us. I have a question. At some point, you could have bought time to keep growing because your charts show that you were going again to break even. So you could have done that and bought time, but you decided to sell. So this decision, how did you make it, and why that precise moment you said, okay, it's enough, I have 4 months, and instead of buying 4 additional months, I stop?
It's because I really went to so the thing is, we were relying a lot on our Israeli partners, and there were a deal that was supposed to come in April, and actually was supposed to come end of March, and the problem is in April there's a lot of vacation in Israel, and so all of a sudden people would not answer, and we were really short on cash. We are almost at zero. It was like, if I remember well, I could pay the employees in April, but not in May. And we still didn't have, because to continue, I needed to have proof that I could buy traffic and make more money out of it. If I could have proven this, and we were very close, I think we needed like 1 or 2 more months, and so this is why, like, to cover this, I would need to do more sales. But the sales process being what it is, it's a bit long. And if I had continued, I knew in April was the last moment. Like, if I wanted, it's like you go to hell, and there's this one last exit, and it's like, okay, do I continue or do I take the exit? So this is why this was a decision in the board. Like, I had all the evidence to say, like, if I continue doing sales, 99% chance is that we're just going to die. And because we cannot hire more sales, I'm already full capacity. I cannot do more. There's a sales process takes this much time. So I said, as I have this conviction that if we continue, 99% of the chance we will die, I'd rather just take the chance to sell and stop doing sales. So that's how we came.
Thank you. I'm wondering, how did you behave with employees during the time you were contacting buyers? Were you totally transparent or hiding what was happening?
So I was very transparent. But obviously something broke when the deal with the first company did not make it through, because also not all employees were like this. The employees that were more vulnerable, like the technicians, obviously they wanted to get bought because then it would mean they would keep their job and things like this, and they didn't want to go unemployed. But like the developers, they wanted to create their company also because they already had started. Okay, what if Allmyapps crashes and things like this? So for them it was golden if Allmyapps crash and they can have the unemployment benefit and start their company. But at that time is when after the deal fell through, I told them, you know what? So I was clearly not happy. I said, I understand your point, but then that means that c'est chacun pour soi, quoi. So I'm telling you, I'm going to sell this company. But now I don't care about being transparent anymore. You'll know when, you'll know why. But if you're not with me, then why do I share with you? Okay. So, but the other thing also, because if I enter in more details, like when Iron Source told me we need this engineer, and this engineer, I knew that some of the engineers were the ones who wanted to leave as quick as possible and so on. So before negotiating, like he was in vacation, there's one when I was on vacation, I called him and said, hey, I'm about to negotiate, like what can you do for me? Like what is the longest you can stay and you're willing to work? Because obviously I had no leverage because it would be a contract between them and the company. And so he told me, well, end of October. And so I negotiated, like end of October was crazy short already because they wanted him to go until minimum end of December. And so I negotiate end of October. And when he came back from vacation, he tells me, well, 1st September, 1st of October. And so then you have to call back and say, well, you know what, I told you this guy, they were already super unhappy that it was only end of October. And I told him, well, what would you do if this guy would just have a car crash? What would you do? And then they were like, okay, so maybe then we need this guy more. If he's not coming, we need this guy more. But yeah, like it was really not. Some employees were not cool. Honestly, it's tough. It's a tough situation, so you cannot predict. And I really love them. They are very good. But when quand c'est la merde, it's difficult to be harsh with them. But one thing also, because this other employee, I came back to him. That was funny, because so his name is Patrick, and I called him. I remember, and I was like, Patrick, I don't want to put pressure on you, but you're a deal breaker. What can you do for me? Can you stay until March? And I was like, well, I'm not super happy about staying until March, but okay, if you want me to stay until March, I can do that, but you need to pay me. And I was like, okay, name your price. So the thing is, I had this envelope, so everything that I would pay extra would come from what I would get, because I would be paid last. So, but that's fair. Like, yeah, he was not also crazy, but he got more out of the deal than I did.
Que la famille.